Hello again, everybody. So now we move on to, well, again, this now, ironically, this one is not going to be nearly as long, but then again, I think there's going to be enough to talk about because this is involving Chris and the ability to read, or Chris and reading. So, considering what this channel is based on, I suppose I should have no difficulties with this whatsoever. I keep telling myself that after doing this all this time, but oh well, what can you do? So, according to Bob, Chris taught himself to read by turning on the closed captions on television and following along with the words. I mean, there's there's uncanny starts and then there's slightly unusual approaches, but oh well, there's ways around this. Anyone who wants to be a good writer must be well read. It's one of the most natural ways to become acquainted with good style, the elements of a plot, and correct spelling. Chris's ego is so inflated that he thinks that he can produce something brilliant with no effort whatsoever. Mind you, with that being said, I've read Empress Teresa, and to be honest, that gives Sonichu a run for its money in terms of not understanding anything involving plot, setting, sibilance, characters, motifs, message, or anything necessary to delivering a good book, let alone a good story. Anyway, it's one of the most natural ways to become acquainted with good style, the elements of a plot, and correct spelling. Chris's ego is so inflated that, okay, while in school, the only books Chris read voluntarily are paperback Goosebumps and Fear Street novels by R.L. Stine, which are notable not only for their sheer mediocrity. Chris read these books, which were written for elementary scholars, well into high school. Now, listen, with that being said, Chris may well have truly enjoyed these books and merely have persisted in continuing to read them well into the point where maybe he should have set them down unless there was anything else he wanted to get from this. However, it's turned out probably not to be. In terms of the readings he was assigned at Manchester High School, Chris retained only a superficial understanding of them. During the father call, Chris said that he read To Kill a Mockingbird a mere month prior, which in all likelihood he only mentioned it because it was assigned in high school. This was almost certainly proven false when he confused it with Of Mice and Men, another high school assignment. The essay he wrote about a selection from Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales earned only a 69%. And to be honest, even my evaluation of how he went about learning about the Canterbury Tales leaves a lot to be desired. But then again, I'm not a teacher. Children's books and young adult literature. Bernstein Bears. Good start. Is a long-running children's book series by the Bernstein family which began in 1962. Chris enjoyed reading the series as a child, ironically claiming The Bad Habit was his favourite book, given that the books are simplistic morality tales talking about animals in which problems come out of thin air and are easily resolved by the final pages. It's not hard to see how they appealed to Chris. Goosebumps. Goosebumps is a long-running children's horror novel series by R.L. Stine and first published in 1992. Goosebumps is Chris's favourite book series, and he continued to read the books up until high school. Chris has also said that The Haunted Mask is his favourite book of all time. Really? But better than, anything by whatever. Let's try and move past this. How to Talk to Girls by Alec Grevin was first published in 2008 when Alec was 9 years old. It is a children's guide on how to get a boyfriend-free girl. Chris purchased the book in early 2009 under the guidance of his pastoral counsellor and the John Tesh radio show, and in Chris's words, is a great book. In Solitude issue 9, several concepts from the book are used in the dating education class. Lord knows where Alec Grevin is right now, or whether or not he's just kind of... He would have been 20... He would be 25, wouldn't he, by this point? Actually, no. He would have been... no, he would have been 26, so he's younger than me, and even he's probably achieved more success than I have. The Butter Battle Book. The Butter Battle Book by Dr. Seuss was published in 1984. It is a children's book themed on anti-war messages. Its plot is a metaphor for mutually assured destruction through nuclear weapons. During the Gruppenführer Fegele and Schatz from January 2018, Chris bought the book's plot when arguing against the usage of nuclear weapons. Fegelian and Blanc then mocked Chris over the age range of the book, as Chris was 35 at the time. Mind you, with that being said, I mean, to be fair, if they were willing to mock people over reading children's books, imagine how they're going to be feeling when they realize grown adults write children's books. They even write, the television series aimed at children. Work that one out. The Giver. The Giver by Lewis Lowry was published in 1993. It is a young adult science fiction novel about a dystopian setting which at first glance appears as a utopia. Chris read the book while in high school. In a August 2009 call with Casey, Chris mentioned he still has the book in his collection, which he also includes Goosebumps and To Kill a Mockingbird, and rambled about the book's plot to her. In February of 2010, when Chris was 28, he recommended the book to the Wallflower in an email to her and quoted the book's summary. In Sonichu issue 13, written from 2017 to 2018, when Comic Chris is role-playing a date with Blanc, the conversation turns to books and he talks about The Giver to her. Graphic novels. Full Facts by Mary Bellamy, who has worked on My Little Pony comics, is a series of 10 graphic novels about a group of magical girls. Chris bought the first volume all the way back in April of 2020 and tweeted that it was really fun, cute, and cool. He said he would buy the rest of the series. Transformers Back to the Future. Transformers Back to the Future is a crossover between the Transformers and the Back to the Future franchises, which consisted of 4 books and ran from October 2020 to May 2021. Chris is a fan and in January 2021 had read the first 2 and was waiting for the third to be released. He liked a scene of the Transformers character Starscream being dunked into manure, a gag usually meant from Biff from Back to the Future. I've never seen any of the Back to the Future films, so that one's... I mean, I can get what they're going for, but... Okay. Adult literature. The Canterbury Tales. The Canterbury Tales is a collection of stories periodically written by Geoffrey Chaucer until his death in 1400, and compiled numerous times over the years. Chris read parts of the book during high school and an English assignment on the story The Nun Priest's Tale. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales gives us a great picture of life in the Middle Ages. In The Nun's Priest's Tale, Chanticleer had a dream that showed what was going to happen, and that the rooster and the fox's pride got each other into trouble, and the rooster and the fox learned from their mistakes they had made. Well, that's it for this essay. Chris's essay received a 69% from his teacher. And the only thing that I'm wondering right now is 69% out of what? Because honestly, I've read Chris's assignment on the Nun Priest's Tale, and to be honest, 69 out of 100. Reading that, Chris is not even 69 out of 500. Honestly, if I wrote that when I was doing my A levels, I would have been kicked in the nuts. If I wrote that for my GCSEs, I would have been kicked in the nuts twice. Long story short, my English lit teacher, who I had for 4 years, literally the greatest teacher I've ever had in my life. Absolutely, she would have taken extreme pleasure in telling people to do into kicking me in the nuts, because honestly, that is embarrassing. Oh dear. Anyway, Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, 1564 to 1616, was an English playwright and poet widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and among the greatest writers of all world literature. It is unknown if Chris has ever read a complete Shakespeare play, although he admits in his OkCupid answers that he has never read Shakespeare outside of school. Nevertheless, some of the bard's more famous lines have been quoted or bastardized by Chris, likely because he picked them up from various forms of pop culture. In sub-episode 3 of Sonichu, Mary Lee Walsh quotes a famous couplet from the witches in Macbeth while stirring a cauldron. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burning, cauldron bubble. She follows it up with a much worse couplet of Chris's own creation. I shatter hearts as I please, I hurt them hard with the greatest of ease. To be fair, that's not too bad, but then again, this would have worked if Chris didn't just straight up steal. I'm going to say the word steal, double, double, toil and trouble. In Ode to Joy, Chris attempts to quote Romeo's famous soliloquy from Romeo and Juliet, Cristiano, Cristiano, where art thou, Cristiano? I don't know why she's turned Spanish all of a sudden, but who knows. And I would be there, in your heart, for I have, for you, my heart is with you. For if I called you up, would I be there in my heart? And I would personally be calling out, I am here, O fair Juliet. 'Tis nobler thy name be heard every morn. I've gone Spanish to Jamaican for no reason apart from I don't know what Chris is going for either. Every waking moment. And the sun is in the east. Very good, Chris. The sun is in the east. What if it was setting? That's my question. And Juliet is the sun. Though I know not much Shakespeare, but at least I know enough to getteth by. You know, I was making the comment about the Spanish before, and to be fair, to anybody who watches English football out there, you may be familiar with Arsenal's manager, the miserable Mikel Arteta, and the fact that, well, to be fair, much like Mikel Arteta, I only wear black now when doing videos. Tell me if you've ever seen Mikel Arteta on the sidelines, and tell me if he wears anything except black, because you will not find it. I wonder if that's what happens, when you reach a certain age and you're Spanish, or you've been playing for Everton or something. I don't know. Dating for Dummies. I only had read the tips that I felt I needed. I did not read the entire book. So you're shit out of luck then, Chris, because you probably should have read all of it. Dating for Dummies by Joy Brown was first published in 2006, with a third edition published in 2011. It is part of the popular For Dummies line of reference books. In September 2024, Chris offered his copy of the book on sale on Quicklight for $100. In the listing, he stated that he had bought the book a couple of decades prior, and that he only read through some of its tips. And Chris felt that was more than enough to sell it for $100. Goodness knows what Chris paid for it when it was new, or when he got it. Develop Your Psychic Skills by Ian Hoffman was first published in 1981 and republished in 1997. According to an excerpt from the cover of the book, it gives you a broad overview of the whole field of psychic experiences. The exercises and practices given in this book are enjoyable and easy to do. Use them to strengthen and focus your own natural abilities and turn them into precise, coordinated skills. You'll be amazed at the changes that begin to happen in your life as you activate the right hemisphere of your brain. The intuitive, created psychic half which has been so seldom used for so long. When Chris read the Psychonesis chapter, which mentioned magician Uri Geller by name, he decided to emailing Geller in September of 2017 to ask for help when developing his psychic skills, although Geller replied that it was a waste of time. Also, focus your own natural abilities and turn them into precise, coordinated skills. Coordinated. Chris Chan. Chris couldn't find his arse with his hand, let alone find precise, coordinated skills. Numerology. The Key to Your Inner Self by Hans de Cos and Tom Monty was first published in 1993. It is a book on the mystical belief of numerology, an attempt to use numbers and math to interpret the meaning of life. Chris discussed the book with The Place during April of 21, where he chatted about using numerology to interpret his birth name of Christopher Weston Chandler. And look what good that did for you, Chris. Also, here's a little bit of a surprise. The Man in the High Castle, by Philip K. Dick, was published in 1962. It is an alternative history novel based on the idea of the Axis powers winning World War II. During the Idea Guys saga, Joshua Wise convinced Chris to read the novel. By the 10th of January 2018, Chris reported that he was on chapter 11. This book is also mentioned in Sonichu issue 13. But, let me guess. Chris should have been able to, Chris was aware that this was just a work of fiction. Unless Chris really does believe that... No, you cannot be telling me that Chris really believed The Man in the High Castle was, based on fact. Because it's not. And then, of course, The Ultimate Guide to Sex and Disability, by Miriam Kaufman, Corey Silverberg, and Fran Odette, published in September 2020. Oh, that's convenient, isn't it? I think all the pieces are coming together. Chris purchased a copy from Amazon for use during his incestuous affair with his own mother. He described the book as a valuable and informative book to add additional guidance. As you do. Fanfics. Chris has read some fanfics and stories in which he or Sonichu is a main character. The stories tend to be unflattering, and Chris has complained about his portrayal in these works. Chris has also solicited fans for fanfics to be written about him. In March 2021, during a time frame in which his sex drive had shot up, he asked his followers to write a romance story about him with the title Romancing Quickly, but insisted he not be portrayed as a simp. A day later, a fan responded to his request with a short story, but Chris was judgmental, demeaning it as a start, simplistic, and not bad. Chris has never really been that courteous when it comes to gratitude either, so don't even do that, because guys, if you are literally given something for free, then why on earth complain about it? A Girl Who Brought Down the World, My Friend Sonichu, SNT vs Sonichu. The use of highlighters. Also, by the way, has Chris Chan Warhol not been added to this? Because I thought Chris did, mostly read that book. Or maybe Chris just kind of stopped halfway through, I don't know. Also, so you all know, I have a rainbow of highlighters, each specified with the false, true range and then some. Pay attention. A highlighter is a writing tool for specially noting text. Chris has a system for highlighting, demonstrating on at least 3 occasions. When reading Warhol, here we go, / Chris Chan, Chris highlighted selected portions of the text in various colours. He explained his methods in a Twitter post. Pink, that's wrong, see facts. Orange, half right, half wrong, see facts. Yellow, generally interesting or made me smile. Green, additional facts for context. I have more to it than that stated. Blue, totally agree and on point. And purple, highly resonant with me. And apparently here is the highlighted text from a social media image and from a message sent by a close friend. Apparently Society did this, so it is highlighted in yellow. Apparently as just a reference once again to suggest the idea that Chris was at no fault whatsoever and it was entirely on the trolls. On par, I suppose, with everything else, but that is, as they say, is that. Now, honestly, if there's anything to add about this, because I'm not too sure if there's anything else to say, apart from, you would have assumed that, again, for someone who was interested in reading, in doing a comic book series, Chris would have been very well acquainted with not only how to format a comic book, but also how to write for one as well. And, well, Chris probably... I don't even really think Chris read that much manga either, because there was no mention of any manga listed here whatsoever. So that leads me to suggest, I mean, if you just take a look up there, that's about like half of my collection of like manga is just listed on that shelf anyway. And to be honest, even my collection hasn't been updated since 2021, but I still read it, just as you do. And I don't know if it would be a good idea, like, to end this by, you know, stating everything that I read, or at least, well, okay, well, I'm not going to go over everything I've read, or anything that can't be categorized in, among other things. I'm just going to give you, like, about a 10-second list of just some of the things I've read in my time, as somebody who is aspiring to write as well. Okay, so in 10 seconds, how about we do it like this? Okay, 10 seconds, alright. 5 plays by William Shakespeare, the completed works of George Orwell, the completed works of Hans Christian Andersen, Paradise Lost, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the completed works of F. Scott Fitzgerald, the completed works of John Steinbeck, and the completed works of Upton Sinclair. I won't elaborate, because at this point we would be here all day. But to be honest, even that's a little bit of a conservative estimate, because then again, Upton Sinclair, at least at this moment, mostly consists of The Jungle, which is one of the best modern American story, at least of the 20th century, you could possibly ever get. And most of everything else doesn't really need too much of an explanation outside of Paradise Lost, because that has a lot more to do with its context and how it was pretty much written during a civil war. But that's, as they say, is that. And I will hope to see all of you guys turn the page with me next time in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now. Well, hello again. And just before each and every one of you leave, if I could just hold your attention for a few more seconds, and I want to show you very quickly my Patreon store. I've been running this for 5 years now, and ever since this month began, I've decided to reopen, relaunch, completely sort out my categories for videos, and I've uploaded them sometimes as far as 3 months in advance. So you guys will be able to get an exclusive look exactly what's coming out, when it's coming out, at your convenience. So make sure to stop by, take a look around, and let's see what you think. Thank you very much for supporting me once again, and I'll see you again next time.